They're just punishing it. Record cloud. Yep.
Now you have like.
All right, we're
Like having. It's like, that's how, yeah. This guy.
Carrie is not here.
Yeah. And it comes in waves, right? It's like, once you get that first call, you don't want. The next one's coming.
And the panelist link went out.
Yeah, he just emailed me a minute ago about that. Probably.
Okay, so we'll just wait another minute for other member. Yeah. And I'll have here.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, really? So if you ever need something, I just think, what I'm doing. Is it not? I've got like a new Nantucket electric. Line that goes to the front, but we didn't do something like, I got all credits that Feldman did. So you have the invite, you can get the one there. That's the one thought, line I thought I knew where it was, and they didn't mark it, you know what I mean? So well, it's tough. Well, they got this side, well, that's White Elephant was an old parking lot that they're four apart. Yeah. But, you know, it's all long now, so I guarantee you they left all the secondary electric, they left, so they've got lines going everywhere. Oh, I'm the one. No. Because they don't know, it's like, they probably. Yes, true. It's very electric, they left, you know. No, but I just called and said, you know, am I missing something? Because they might have moved the line, I just. Would you try putting out a Zoom and trying to get back?
I've been using them, Charles, they're expensive.
They're expensive though, yeah, yeah.
And they might take a while,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're expensive.
So now,
Okay.
now I've decided I'm just gonna call it.
And
Just
but
for
it's
start
still-
testing. They're supposed to be there yesterday, right? I used one before,
Although,
the first time I used this one.
Yeah.
It's very slow, mark out the electric line. Not even close right to the back. And come back, every had a back go digging.
Okay, so John,
And then I think they.
on the top of the Zoom window on the right, click start webinar.
You're gonna wait a minute.
Yeah. And now, once you've done that.
You go to a site, it says dig safe clear, I'm standing at the street, there's a pole with a rise. I'm looking at the electric. Yes, yes, it is, yeah,
You're in the right spot.
Do I have to report to somebody?
No.
Just sit down.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and I'm looking at the electric readout, I'm going, how do you think it gets from there to here?
Okay, Carrie's now on as a panelist. We're just missing Bob, but we have.
I was all set. Yeah, you might be a couple minutes late.
Yeah.
It says it's clear, you know, this is not clear.
You know, you guys are potentially pushing back, the election of officers here, the chair's discretion. I think it would take a motion and vote just to change the order of those things, but other than that, it's up to y'all.
Yeah. All right, up to you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, you're on mute.
Okay, we ready to begin? Has Bob been found yet?
He's not on yet, but he might be running a little bit late.
Okay, so what we will do is start the meeting. So welcome to the August 20th, 2026 regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Health. This meeting is being conducted in a hybrid fashion. Since there are Zoom attendees, votes will be taken by roll call. The meeting is being audio and visually recorded. So we can begin. First would be to establish a quorum. It looks like we have not everybody, missing Bob. So we have Amy, Kate, and Ernie. I'm looking from afar. So okay, so we have established a quorum, and hopefully Bob will be able to join the meeting soon. The agenda, has everyone received a copy of the agenda and had a chance to look at it? I'll take that as a yes. So the agenda is approved. And the first item that we have to deal with is the election of officers. If there's anyone who wants to give me a hand as to how this is done, that would be really wonderful.
In the past, the election of officers can be done either someone can volunteer themselves for a particular position, or it can be the everybody else steps back approach of picking somebody and making them do it. Bobby did mention it might be worth it to push back the to push that a
Yeah.
little lower in the agenda to make sure we have a full board when he's here. That's
Yeah.
at your discretion, but it would require a motion and a vote to alter the order of the agenda.
Okay, I mean, actually, I would have preferred that we had a full board voting on this. So if it is okay with the other Board of Health members, can we push this later in the meeting? I'm not gonna be able to tell you exactly when, but hopefully when Bob's been able to join. And if for some reason he's not been able, won't be able to join, that we would push it to the next meeting as one of the early items.
Yes.
We have to do a voice vote. So Ernie,
Yes, aye.
okay, Kate?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And Carrie says yes too. So we will push this back a little bit. I'll run the meeting until we have an election. I guess, whether it be this meeting or at the beginning of the September meeting. Okay.
Guys,
Yes,
hello, I'm sorry, it's Bob. I'm here. I am on Zoom.
oh, okay.
I probably will, I'm gonna try to get there, but chances are I'm not even in for fishing yet, so I'll probably won't be able to make it, depending on how quickly you guys go. If you want to do the election without me there, that we can do it without it. I just wanted to make an announcement to all of you that no matter what, I feel of this because I am going to have times when I have to zoom in, and I don't want to have to be chairman or vice chair from a Zoom position. So keep that in mind when you decide to elect officers. Okay?
Okay, so well, I'm gonna then, since Bob's participation is gonna be somewhat possibly variable, if it is okay with the rest of the board, that I will run this meeting as acting chair only. And we will do election of officers at the September meeting when we will have a hopefully the full house and everyone, able to fully participate. So I'm gonna make that motion. Anyone second it?
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call vote. Ernie?
Yes. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Kate?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And Carrie says yes. So what we'll do is I will
I also vote aye.
oh, okay. I can't tell if you're there or not, Bob, because you kind of been jumping.
Yeah,
in.
no, I'll be here. I'll be able to make every vote. So just ask
Okay.
me, and I will unmute and zoom it and give you my
Okay.
vote.
Okay,
Okay.
great. No, okay, great. Thank you.
welcome.
So let's go on to item number 5, which is public comment. Is there anyone in the room that would be willing to come up to the microphone and talk about an issue that is not currently on the agenda, but would like to bring forth?
Do we have Charles, do we have a hand up? Perfect.
Okay, is there any, I don't see any motion from here. Is there anybody moving towards anything other than
We do
Jared?
have one person,
Yes.
Carrie, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, good, good.
Address to identify yourself, and then,
And it's not related to whatever he's talking.
so it's nothing to do with anything on the agenda? Perfect.
All right. I'm Anita Dazzo, and I have a summer home. I'm here 6 months of the year, 39 Myacomet Avenue. And when I came to the island in June, I learned that you people, or whether it's you or what group, are really considering putting in turf on the high school field. I was just so shocked. I had been working in New Jersey to stop turf in New Jersey. I said, I never dreamed that Nantucket would go to turf. So I want to say something, post it, and try to reverse it. That was why I came. I found you. Is that it?
Yeah, if that's all you have to
All
say.
right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comment. Appreciate it.
So can I leave now?
Yeah, if you don't want to, there's an update about the turf field coming in maybe 10 minutes. It'll be from me and I'll make sure I project.
I don't see any other hands raised. Kerry, just to let you know.
Okay, great. Thank you. So what we'll do is go to director's update, and I see we have Rocky here as well as Jericho. So
Sorry, Kerry, you had
yes.
approval of minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. You're right. Okay. We had two sets of minutes. We had the June 18th and July 16th. So let's do them one at a time. The June 18th, 2026 minutes, they have been, whatever amendments we made were necessarily made have been made. Are there any changes or amendments to the the June 18th, 2026 minutes? And again, the new board wasn't there, so I looked them over and I was comfortable with them. So
I'll need to check with Deb and
Yeah.
Maureen. Deb and Maureen in compliance to ensure how we adopt minutes where there is not a sufficient quorum of people who are in attendance. That should be tabled for next meeting. I'll talk to Deb and get back.
So can I
Yeah,
weigh in
Bob.
on that? So I've had the same situation on the select board. They've had to minutes that I was not sitting on the actual meeting. And they said that even though we weren't there, we could approve the minutes. So if you're comfortable with the minutes being the only one that was sitting there, someone can make the motion to adopt and be seconded and they can be passed on.
Yeah, my understanding was this, if the new board members did read the minutes and agreed with them or approved them, they were okay to vote. That was my understanding.
Yeah, mine too. So if somebody wants to make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, so do a roll call vote for approval of the June 18th, 2026 minutes. Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
and Carrie says aye.
And I say aye as well.
Yes, Bob, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You're tucked down in
Sorry,
the
Jeff.
corner on my screen, so I will,
No problem.
I will be more attentive. Thank you. Okay, let's jump to July 16th, 2026 minutes, of which four of us were there. Amy, I guess you will have the option of not voting on this, and that'd be okay. We have a quorum, but that's still July 16th, 2026 minutes. Is there a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve the July 16th, 2026 minutes.
Okay, second.
Yeah, I got a second.
Just
got a
haul out of Point Pleasant. Okay.
Did you get that? I seconded it.
Yeah, yes, I got the second. I'm also hearing that there's off of Point Pleasant. Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy, do you want to vote or you like to abstain? Your choice.
Aye. I'll vote.
Okay, and Bob?
Aye.
Okay, and Carrie says aye. So both the June 18th, 2026 and July 16th, 2026 minutes have been approved. Okay, now we go on to number 7, director's update. And we have Rocky and both Jericho. So I'll let you guys decide who's saying what when.
I will take it to start with, and then Rocky can add stuff as necessary.
Okay.
We have a few items on the director's update, actually even mixed between the human services and the health side. An update on the ongoing pre-K subsidy and pilot program that is currently open for enrollment. We'll be closing the sign-up form for that on August the 31st. The enrollment details and everything else are available through any of the licensed childcare facilities on the island. There's an online sign-up form that you can submit your information for. We hope to have a 1-week evaluation period where we ensure that everybody is eligible for the program, confirm the list of the students with the different providers, and work with our fantastic partner on this, the Community Foundation for Nantucket, who will be doing the disbursement of the funding direct to each of these schools to act as a subsidy. Currently, I think we have about 100-ish students before we've deduplicated and checked eligibility for the various students, which I think at this point, depending on the way that fundraising goes for that program, works out to about a 4,500 subsidy per student for this year. Next, we began, the Health and Human Services Department began some discussions with the local conservation agencies to standardize and update our tick signage, as well as coordinate research projects designed to identify, quantify, and track both the species and number of various tick species on Nantucket. That is planned to continue through the off season so that we have everything lined up for next season in terms of consistent signage and messaging. There will also be some availability for open hours with a regional epidemiologist who's been working on alpha-gal syndrome specifically. And then we are looking to do a couple of talks in the fall discussing the current state of alpha-gal research, risks, et cetera, et cetera. And then we are also going to be coordinating with the hospital on their tick-borne illness institute that is, I think, is underway at the moment. This is the update regarding the field. The final agreement between the health department and the school regarding pre-installation testing of the field was signed and agreed upon. It was scheduled to go to a school committee meeting this week. I was hoping to present it for adoption here, but I believe they had some technical difficulties with that meeting, and it should be scheduled in the short term. So ideally, we will be bringing it to the next meeting. Then in kind of broader state news, the state governor's office and the State Department of Public Health issued a emergency order to ban the sale of kratom, which is an alkaloid supplement, an alkaloid narcotic that was classified as a supplement and available over the counter until this order. I believe the order will take effect on the 28th, and it provides enforcement authority to local boards of health to prevent the sale of it. It's something that we kicked around. We were talking in collaboration with Martha's Vineyard, who just passed a local ban on that. We were looking to do that here as well. The state has made that process significantly simpler for us. So after the 28th, we'll begin a survey to see where it is being sold on the island, if at all, and then inform anyone who's doing any retailing for it that it is no longer legal for sale in Massachusetts. It was an unclassified supplement and it has been moved to Schedule 1, which means that there is no usage for it allowed. And it applies to all forms of the kratom from the plant form on through most of the common synthetic versions of it. John had a couple of things he was going to add about beach closures. We did have 2 closures this week. So John wanted to mention a little bit about how, why, and when.
Yeah, I think most people saw on the news that Children's Beach and Washing Pond Beach were closed yesterday. Geez, I'm sorry. I wrote notes this morning and things did change this afternoon. We received the results from yesterday's sample today from Children's, and Children's is now back open for swimming. So it had been in geometric failure, but is now below the geo mean for safe swimming. Washing Pond still remains closed, but looks like it had a good sample from yesterday. We did resample this morning as well, so it's just barely in geometric failure right now. So hopefully we get a resample and that's back open for the weekend. But until tomorrow about 1:30 or so, we won't know the answer to that. So,
John, can I ask you a question? Can you explain the
yes.
term geometric failure? I think of geometry and squares and polygons, so I think it's different.
I was fearing someone was going to ask me this question. It's not an arithmetic mean average. It's geometric, which is It's not like you take, so the geo mean is the last 5 samples taken and the mean out of those last 5 samples. It's not that you take all 5 and average them, like I said, like arithmetic, like,
Okay.
adding
So-
all 5 together it's a different formula that involves square roots. Because you're dealing with colony forming units. So,
Okay.
and plate counts. So, how they count it on the plate. So it's a little bit, it's different than just adding them and dividing by 5,
Okay,
basically.
no,
But
thank you, because, 'cause it was a term that hadn't heard before.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's anyone looking for more information such as that. It's available on mass.gov. I think they have a great website for that. It's an FAQ section. I emailed it along to Kate this morning or this afternoon. And it gives a lot of good information, which I could regurgitate now, but I think they do a good job as well. And that's
Okay.
mass.gov, bathing beach, FAQs. If you just search for that, you'd find it. So there's single counts and geo means. So
Okay, great. No, thank you. Thank you. And thank you for the link that we can look that up and get more information on it. Jericho, do you have anything else?
That concludes my director's update. If anyone has any questions, Rocky, it looks like he has something to
Yeah,
add.
I want, and that's Rocky.
Good afternoon, everybody. Rocky Miramontes, Public Health Director, and the team and I usually touch base often prior to this meeting, so I usually don't have a lot to add. But I did want to say that the new Public Health Director, Joanna Watson, her first day will be Monday. And she's looking forward to joining the team and the town as a new resident. We will try and set something up in her first week, sort of a community meet and greet to have anybody who is interested in coming to meet her in person early on will have the ability to do so. Thanks.
Okay. And Rocky, I just want to take a second just to thank you for your time with us and your leadership, and thank you for hanging in there until a replacement was found too. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Okay, any question from the board about any of the items in the update, whether the state news or Kratom or the pre-K, anything? No? Okay. We will go on to Andrew, the Environmental Contamination Administrator update. I think we all have this packet of slides was in the slides were in our packet, so let you go ahead. Thank you, Andrew. Go ahead.
Yep. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Shapiro, Environmental Contamination Administrator. And John, if you don't mind pulling up my slides, I'll keep talking, but they serve as a good visual reference. So every month I provide an update on new PFAS data in private wells. Recently, we're mostly getting data from either voluntary efforts or from our Board of Health regulations. We don't have any new data from Mass DEP's island-wide investigation. So just looking at the data that was collected through our health department, we have 32 new samples to share details on. Unfortunately, we do have one detect over the state standard of 20 parts per trillion. This was on Eagles Wing Way. We also have 6 detects below the PFAS 6 standard. These can also be concerning, so those are worth reporting out. And we have 25 non-detects for PFAS 6. That's kind of my routine update. I do have one notable result that I wanted to share. It's at the bottom half of my slide on slide 2. And this is related to a topic that has come up at the Board of Health a couple of times. And Mr. Chair, I think you in particular have very smartly asked a few times, are PFAS concentrations changing? And my response in the past has been, we need, repeat samples to be able to do that. And people only sample their wells every so often. The state's recommendation is that you should sample every 10 years. I've seen Barnstable County recommend every 3 years. We had RCAP Solutions, a nonprofit in Massachusetts, recommend 5 years recently. So we have a resident who resampled their well, and back in June 2025, she had tested just above the state standard at 20 parts per trillion as part of Mass DEP's island-wide investigation. This was collected by Mass DEP and reported out to the Board of Health. So they retested their well 2 months ago in June, and they tested it non-detect. So, on the surface, that's definitely a good result. It's a little bit perplexing. It's certainly an interesting result. So I followed up with Mass DEP. I followed up with the Barnstable County Water Quality Lab, who tested this most recent sample. And all indications are that both results are valid. Previously, it had detected above the state standard. More recently, it detected non-detect. And, they had detected multiple non-regulated PFAS contaminants back in June 2025. Those were also non-detect. So it's really an interesting result. Leaves a little bit of uncertainty if this is what your result is in your well, but it passed all QA/QC at the lab most recently. And so, all bets are that it is a real result. Main takeaway is that PFAS concentrations can change. I've seen estimates that groundwater on the island can move anywhere from 700 to 900 feet per year. And PFAS, travels readily with groundwater. And so this is a case where the concentration went down. But there could be cases where the concentration goes up in other cases. And so that regular testing is really important. Moving on to slide 3, which I see John has up on the screen now. Here's our latest map. This fills in only incrementally every month because, at this point we have 670 samples represented here. So it only changes so much every month when we're reporting on 30 or so new results. But you can see green, these are places where PFAS has been a non-detect result. Yellow is where we have a detection that's below the state standard of 20. Orange is where we have a detection in the range of 20 to 90 parts per trillion. And the red are our most concerning results above Mass DEP's imminent hazard threshold. Moving on to the next 2 slides, I include these for reference. They're useful for me for tracking long-term trends. Again, they only update incrementally because 30 samples a month can only make so big of a difference in a pool of 670 samples. So I show basic summary statistics on slide 4, and then on slide 5, I have a histogram, which provides a little bit more of a granular look at the statistical distribution of results. That's a quick update for me. Again, I'm happy to do a more detailed update on PFAS at a future Board of Health meeting. Our health department usually works with the board chair to set the agenda. So that might be something that the board chair chooses to put on the agenda in the next coming months, and I'll be happy to do that. But for now, I'm happy to take any questions.
Andrews, Carrie, a quick question, again, with the one where we just had to double sample, do we know if they use the same water source, versus, an outside tap versus a laundry tub versus a sink? I mean, do we know if that variable was controlled?
It was. Great question. It was also something running through my mind, and they collected from the same tap. They hadn't added any treatment, and yeah, it's a interesting result.
Okay. And I guess, look, if we were to look at I think, well, what can cause things to change? Because we know they can. Before the second collection or for the first collection, was there a heavy rains and stuff like that in terms of it was something that would have increased the groundwater flow in that area and, possibly been a source of potential change. But
Yeah, so I talked to Mass DEP about why that change might have occurred. And ultimately, we know that there is contamination in this area, but we don't know the source. And so Mass DEP said without a source, they're not really able to explain why the changes might be occurring.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. And that, it is interesting.
Interesting.
PFAS has proven interesting. Board, are there any board members that have any questions for Andrew or about any of the present, the slides or anything?
Yeah, I have a quick question through the chair.
Go
So,
ahead.
Andrew, the ones that are in red, just kind of in the spirit of the burnt swamp one we just discussed, how often, and maybe it's monthly, if I missed it, I apologize. How often are we retesting the ones that are in the red? Just since that one changed within the year, I wasn't sure. How
Yeah,
often are we testing?
all of those have been either initially tested by Mass DEP or retested by Mass DEP. So it's really in DEP's sampling program. DEP has not been on the island since I believe January. They have retested some of these wells, though. It is their protocol that when they get an imminent hazard, they usually take a handful of sampling points. And so on Oak Hollow, I believe, right next to Burnt Swamp, they had tested, something in the 400 parts per trillion range. And they tested, I don't know, a couple months later, and it was more in the 200 range. So that's a big difference, but it doesn't necessarily change your course of action. So, it's the difference between really high and really, really high, basically. So it doesn't necessarily change the interpretation of the results. Kind of the same thing has been seen on Tom's Way too, where we will have um some large changes, but the interpretation is the same. It's a high concentration. So this is one of the first results where we've seen a repeat sample kind of jump categories. In this case, it's a good jump, but we worry there could be other bad jumps out there too.
Andrew, does funding exist for the selective retesting of just, we have a lot of different sites, I mean, so that to pick a bunch in various places throughout the island to retest without having the owners put out the $165. You're really more for a scientific study of, you tested 2 years ago and where are you now? And let's, to at least kind of build a broader set of retests and what those differences are.
Yeah, there's nothing at the moment. It's ultimately the well owner's responsibility to test their well. Open to discussing further in the future, though.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other board members have any other questions for Andrew?
Yeah, one quick question.
Yes.
If I can. Um, the, are there standards for how the samples are taken? Are they taken? There are, and I'm just, yeah, okay.
So many people are collecting these tests themselves. And there's a protocol. There's always the concern that there could be a false positive. That's why Mass DEP, when they detect something really high, they go back and they retest it because of that fear of a false positive. We haven't really seen anything nullified because of that. When you get a non-detect, though, that's a pretty good indication that there's not actually any detectable PFAS in your well. A false negative is unlikely if it passes the laboratory's QA/QC. When Mass DEP's out there, they do follow a pretty rigorous protocol in terms of not wearing PFAS clothing that might have PFAS, collecting duplicates, collecting field blanks, laboratory blanks. So they do a pretty thorough job.
One last question, Andrew, and I'm sure this would have been asterisked, but how often, just with technology always changing, are the tests updated, or are they even ever? Or that
In terms of the laboratory technology?
Yeah, just the technology, what they're sampling. Yeah, just is there
Yeah,
anything
it's a
that's
good
changing
question.
there? I'm assuming not, but
Yeah, I mean it's a set EPA standardized method. Um, they update them every once in a while, but it's a big deal when they do. I can say in terms of like detection limits, those are not changing at the moment.
Okay. Any other questions for Andrew at this time? Okay, Andrew, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your time and information. Okay, can we take the slides down so that we can see great, thank you. Next is a tick survey project report. This is relates to the dragging of yards and lawns for ticks. So Jericho, is this yours or is there a person there to present?
We have our summer intern, Anders will be doing this presentation. There is a visual component, so we're going to share that right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you, Andres.
Yeah, just taking a moment to get my notes up. All right. Is the sound coming through?
Yeah, I can hear you here.
All right.
Everybody else, I hope.
Sorry, and you can see that on the screen, Kerry?
No,
Oh.
I see the agenda on the screen. Ticks of Nantucket has just arrived. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I am Honors Casperson. I am working the summer as the Health and Human Services summer intern. And one of my main projects has been to do a survey of yards for ticks. My hometown is New York City, but I'm a summer resident here. And I'm currently studying medical anthropology at Dartmouth College, and I'm pursuing a career in healthcare, um, which is why I'm working with the Department of Health this summer. So I'm just going to start off by just giving a brief overview of tick biology. I think, just a couple important things that really determine why we did the survey the way we did, and what type of disease risks come along with ticks. So the main thing is that ticks have three life stages. They have a larval stage. You can stay on the same slide, John, but anyway, they have a larval stage. They have a nymph stage, and they have an adult stage. Throughout these three stages, they will pursue different hosts. They will live in different habitat, and they will carry different diseases. And this is particularly important for, what types of ticks we find in a yard will really indicate what the actual disease risk is. So now I'm just going to go through the 4 different types of ticks we were looking for in our survey and talk a little bit about the disease risks. So the first one here is we're going to talk about the deer tick. So the deer tick is native to Nantucket, and it's one of our most common ticks. It's really well known because it spreads Lyme disease. It's the only tick on Nantucket that spreads Lyme disease. Only the nymphs and the adults can spread Lyme disease as well. And they tend to live in very shaded habitat. They're pretty impacted by climate change in the way that as there becomes droughts and drier habitat, we're expecting their populations to be a little bit less successful than other ticks. Then we can move on to the Lone Star tick. The previous tick, the deer tick, spreads Lyme disease, babibiosis, and anaplasmosis are the big concerns, and those are the most common tick-borne illnesses on Nantucket. Now, the Lone Star is a more emerging species on Nantucket, but we're fairly confident, after the survey, that is an established species here that is permanent populations. And the biggest concern with the Lone Star is alpha gal syndrome, which is an allergy developed to a carbohydrate, alpha galactose 3, found in the saliva of the ticks and in red meat and dairy products, and anything kind of coming from cows or sheep and goats and things. So kind of like gelatin and things that are in a lot of cosmetic and medication products. Additionally, the Lone Star also can spread tularemia and ehrlichiosis, which are both bacterial infections that are concerned to the health department. And it is a more emerging species from the southern United States is where it's been most common. Its historical range has a northern terminus in southern New Jersey. So they weren't really generally found beyond then, but now we do know that due to climate change, they are now established in Nantucket. So now we can move on to the next species of tick. This is another one of the most common ticks we find on Nantucket is the Asian longhorn tick. They are an invasive to the United States. They are from Northeast Asia. They are a wildlife tick though, so they're primarily feeding off of uh, larger mammals like the deer here. They don't really feed that much on humans, and they don't really spread um, disease between animals and humans. So they're not really a concern, but they're just very common throughout the island. They're also, like the Lone Star, more drought resistant than the kind of the native species to Nantucket. Um, and additionally, it's really important. You can see they look quite similar to the Lone Star tick, which makes education on identification um, and kind of responses to tick bites really important because they still do bite people, even though it is fairly uncommon for the species to do so. Now we can move on to the next tick species. So the last species that we were looking for in our survey was the American dog tick. The American dog tick is really um, uncommon in Nantucket. And through the survey, and we didn't identify any ticks as American dog tick. Um, they are kind of just disappearing. It most likely has to do with their preference towards like certain plant communities and certain different ecosystems, like these very small changes. They are established like throughout much of the Northeast and in Martha's Vineyard. They're just not really a tick that has been seen a lot on Nantucket. And as a disease, like they primarily spread tularemia is the biggest concern with them, which is a bacterial infection, but there is just not a great deal of concern with it. We can go on to the next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about tick surveying and the different ways that we can do it and why we ended up doing it in our method. Essentially, there are three ways that people survey for ticks. They collect them from people or dogs are bitten, kind of just like bring us your ticks that you're finding that you're getting bitten. This is not very effective for telling where they are. Just kind of like generally, this would be like, oh, across Nantucket, we're seeing these species, but we already knew which species we were looking for. We wanted to know more specifically where they are. The second thing is you can collect them off hunted deer. This is a really great way to see like what is the real, I guess, which ticks are most prevalent and which are most successful because ultimately all these ticks in their adult stage are feeding off of deer normally as their final blood meal, which they're using to lay. This is not something that we do on Nantucket, but it is something that is done in Martha's Vineyard to kind of supplement a lot of the yard survey work that is already done there by an epidemiologist. The third form of surveying is called dragging or flagging, and this is where you go to an area and you look for the ticks using a flag. So this is what I'm going to talk more about, and it's going to be on the next slide. We'll really show how we did this method. So the tick dragging essentially is you drag a large standardized sheet, so it can be comparable with other places, across like several transects, which are just areas of line, and you're recording kind of the distance that you're going, so you can get an idea of the density of the ticks in an area. So here you can see someone is A, dragging for the ticks, then B, they're searching over the net to see what ticks may be on there. The ticks will cling to the microfibers on the cloth. And then C, they're looking at the species and the life stages to see how they're different. If you can see that the between each life stage, the tick will actually kind of 10x. So it can be really hard to see the larvae, which are a disease risk for certain species. We went with the tick dragging meaning because our three goals through this whole entire program was number one, education and outreach, to really communicate what the risk is for homeowners or residents on island. And then the second was because it really effectively lets us know what people's risks are like in their home, like what disease could you be at risk for just from the ticks around you. And then the third thing is that we really just wanted to confirm kind of like this regional idea of where tick species might be concentrated across the island. If there's kind of like certain zones where some ticks are and zones where they're not. So now I'm going to get into the survey results. So this is kind of like, it's a little bit hard to see, And I'm kind of just going to talk about the map in general. But we found there's kind of like different modes of cohabitation between tick species and different areas where those tick species are concentrated. So throughout the survey, we had uh, a lot of testing, particularly on Mid Island. It's just where people test most. We tested 50 properties, which we collected from the just residents of the town in general. We just sent out a form. We capped it at 50 responses, and then we reached out to all of those people to schedule a time for us to do a survey of their yard. So what you can kind of see here, it might be a little bit hard to tell, but generally what we were seeing was out west on the island, there was areas where we were finding just Lone Star ticks. So saying that these ticks are established here as kind of the only tick in the area. And then all the way out east, we were finding areas where it was just the longhorn tick was established. So only areas out east had the longhorn tick established. In the center of the island, we found a lot more deer tick and a lot more mixes between all of them. The only two species that we never saw to co-occur were the longhorn and the Lone Star. So now we can go to the third, or I guess, sorry, I don't even know what slide. This is going to be slide 9, I believe. Yep. So these are kind of our final results. If you could zoom out a little bit. So I'm just going to talk through essentially what we found throughout all of it. It's a little bit hard to see these graphs, but I'll kind of approximate the numbers. What you're seeing in that bottom left is the percent of properties that had ticks present versus the percent that didn't. And I think it's around 60%, if I'm correct, had ticks present. A lot didn't. That really has to do with the landscapes of these yards. I surveyed a lot of properties in town. There's just not a lot of deer there. There's not a lot of rabbits there. There's not a lot of habitat for the ticks, compared to other parts on the island. So that's when we wouldn't find anything. The ticks need either to be leaf litter. They live in what would be called like the O layer of the soil, like that top organic layer. And they only really live on grasses and things when they're questing. So essentially, we just didn't really find many ticks on some properties just because there's no suitable spot. If you look in the bottom right, this is kind of saying like where we found ticks on properties in general. And what you're seeing is that deer tick were found most commonly as a tick across the island, which reflects what we're seeing in terms of disease, where Lyme disease and babesiosis and anaplasmosis are some of our more common diseases compared to diseases associated with the Lone Star tick like alpha-gal, right? And then all the way at the top, you can see that the breakdown of all different types of, I guess, like modes of tick cohabitation. And the most common that we were seeing was deer tick only or Lone Star tick only or longhorn tick only. And I think this really speaks to the ticks being in certain habitats because of their preference for very specific attributes. And when you're looking across the whole island, the reason why there's a different breakdown is because of the different plant communities and ecology. So this kind of brings us to the end of the presentation and the end of the process of what we did. So what we were focusing on was making recommendations for homeowners in ways that they could really mitigate it things. So the first thing that we can really see for an individual is they can take certain habits to mitigate their risk of tick-borne illness, like such as wearing long sleeve clothing when working or outdoors or just being outdoors. And they can treat their clothing with permethrin is one product, but there are other ways to kind of, prevent the ticks from actually biting. I used long sleeve clothing and permethrin on my clothing. I didn't experience any bite even when I was looking for ticks. Then the next thing that people can do is they can modify the landscape of their yards. So there's a simple mantra that people use. It's just like cut, mow, clear. That's what people say. So you just want to create a physical barrier between tick habitat and between people's habitats. Often what I would find is a property would have a solid barrier in place, and then on the part of the property where people were living, it was generally like safe and there wasn't that many ticks. But maybe, on some woods adjoining or things like that, that's where the ticks were actually really living in habitats. So that's a very simple thing that people can do to protect themselves. Um, and then lastly, I think the most important thing we can do is just educate more about ticks, which we're doing with this program. And as Jericho mentioned earlier, um, the town is going to continue to have programs to help educate residents about the risks of tick-borne illness. Um, so that is my presentation, and I just want to say thank you first to Jericho and Andrew Shapiro for being my supervisors and supporting me, and for the rest of the Health and Human Services staff. And then I want to thank some of the professionals who I worked with. So Tucker Taylor from the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, Patrick Roden Reynolds from Tick Free Martha's Vineyard. I went out to Martha's Vineyard and I trained with him there. And Dr. Sam Telford, who is at Tufts, who I spoke with a little bit about my questions regarding some of the more difficult ecological aspects of ticks on Nantucket. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Any board members have any questions for Anders?
I have a question. I don't
Yes.
know if it's something you guys have, if it's information that's already out there. Just looking at the percentages of tick presence. So deer tick, however many years they've been present on Nantucket, I don't know, decades. And how quick the Lone Star has almost caught up to that same percentage when they weren't even on Nantucket, what, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Or did we not know if they were? Is that?
Well, I think for a while, there's not that many people who do the tick research on Nantucket. But for a while, it wasn't necessarily determined if they had an established population. So the real question is, what does it mean if you find the presence of a species versus whether if it's established and permanent? So there's a little bit of academic debate on that for a while, but I think now people are fairly certain that the Lone Stars are established, and I think our survey really confirms that. And in terms of earliest presence of the Lone Star, I think it may go back over 10 or 15 years ago.
I can add a little of the historical.
Yeah.
So they had an established population on Tuckernuck for a significant
Right.
period of
Yep.
time. The theory is that they were carried from Martha's Vineyard or from the region by birds, deposited on Tuckernuck. They established a population there. I'm not exactly sure what made that particular area so effective for their breeding population. And then through a combination of birds and then deer, which occasionally will cross to and from Tuckernuck, they made their way to sort of the Eel Point area. We had pretty solid indications that there were Lone Star ticks in that area alone. And what we were trying to establish is that they had spread across the island and were more concentrated in places where they were going to interact with human beings. There's a big difference between, a solid breeding population of a particular tick species in an area where people don't go than in yards. And that was sort of what we were trying to figure out. And then that sort of really connected with the very high deer populations, which is why we think that they have spread as quickly and effectively across the island.
And if I could just add a little to that, the survey did confirm that while they're primarily dominant in the regions that people were thinking they were, which is the western part of the island, I found them all the way up into Woolwinnet even. So I think it's reasonable to assume that they have presence across the entire island, even though they're most dominantly established only in certain sections.
I have Rocky has his hand up, Kerry.
Yep, well. Rocky?
Anders, great job. Thank you so much for your work this summer. I think it's been very helpful for us to understand how this distribution is occurring. I wanted to ask, first of all, I'm not sure that a lot of people understand that the behavior of Lone Star tick is very different than, say, the black-legged or deer tick, where the deer tick will quest and you'll sit and wait for you to walk by. attach itself to you, where the Lone Star tick was actually very aggressive and will pursue you from 15 yards away. And we're starting to hear reports of that very behavior, and it happens on Tuckernuck constantly. If you've spoken to any of their residents, and so I'm wondering, did you have any thought about different how you would describe prevention activities depending on the types of tick that you found? So just to talk about behavior of these ticks in addition to what you typically recommend.
Yeah, I'll talk a bit more about some of the behavioral distinctions between the tick species. The three of concern being the longhorn. Longhorn isn't really concerned, but the three that we were seeing was the longhorn, the deer tick, and the lone star. When it comes down to disease in general for ticks, they are transmitting a bacterial infection or a virus. Um, this means that when they're born sterile, the larval stage of life cannot transmit it. The larval ticks cannot transmit viruses or bacteria. So a bite from a larval deer tick doesn't pose any health threat. When it comes to the Lone Star, because alpha gal is inherent into the tick's saliva, at every single life stage, at the larval stage, at the nymph stage, and at the adult stage, there is a disease risk. Additionally, when it comes to questing behavior, which is how a tick finds a host, the deer tick generally displays pretty classical questing behavior, where as a nymph, it will wait for something to kind of come right over it, where it lives in the leaf litter. And as a that's as an nymph and a larva, really, and as adult it will climb up onto a some brush or a bush or tall grass, and it will outreach their arachnids. They have 8 legs. It will outreach 2 of its legs to kind of try to grab onto a host that will brush by it. Now with the Lone Star, what we see is called host pursuant questing behavior, um, where the Lone Star will identify the host and will travel towards the host. So this means, if you are sitting, this can happen, if you're sitting on a lawn or something, or I experienced even this just surveying, like looking over that net, trying to see what ticks were on it. Lone Stars would come towards me, and they would try to climb on me, climb on my net, in order to bite. This is a different behavior, and it means that you have to kind of do more work to create a barrier between where the ticks live in their general habitat, which is never really a lawn, even if that's where you're finding them as like the Lone Stars as they come towards you. You just need to make something that's harder for the tick to pass. And the biggest way is to create a hotter environment. So, like a short lawn where the sun's going straight to the soil, a mulch flower bed where the mulch itself kind of raises to a temperature that the tick finds uncomfortable. Um, Otherwise, Lone Star ticks in the larval stage will do it's called a tick bomb is kind of what they call it. We also find this with longhorn, although it is a good bit they don't do it in such great numbers. But I saw tick bombs of up to 1,000 ticks for the Lone Star larva, and they travel together as a group in this host pursuant questing behavior. Um, all this really being said, it's a different risk. It's a different disease risk. Alpha gal is way more about an individual's biology than the tick's biology. If it were, deer tick that were moving by the thousands and biting people, if you got bit by 1,000 deer ticks that were carrying, the Lyme disease rates are at a fraction of that, you're still going to almost certainly end up with Lyme disease. When it comes to the Lone Star, some people will need one bite from like an adult or a couple larval bites to develop a reaction, and some people will never develop a reaction. And that is a science that is being still explored and still isn't fully understood. They don't really have official incidence rates yet, but there's a lot of people researching on it. And the CDC is currently releasing numbers and things related to that. So if people have questions, I go to the CDC's tick-borne illness page. I hope that answered your question, Rocky.
Yeah, it did. Thanks so much.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. And I have one, if not, and again, this is more, I'm recovering from two tick diseases, just stopped the medications last week. So a lot of people are using, like natural oils and stuff. Does that work? I know Prometheum is pretty much the standard, but are there any of those combinations of oils and and essences that are sold for ticks that actually work, if you're aware of?
So when it comes to treatment applied to clothing, to prevent it, I only know of effectiveness of permethrin. And I haven't really looked into anything that says other about natural oils. When it comes to spraying, I've read some studies that compare natural oils and other types of um, supplements, really derived from herbs,
Mhm.
versus synthesized chemicals. And I've also spoken to people who work in the spraying, and uh, Patrick Roden Reynolds of Martha's Vineyard has, I think, more insight into where it is effective and where it isn't. What we see is that generally synthetic spraying is the most effective, but a lot of natural solutions are also effective. I think it really depends on the property and how often it's being treated and who it's being treated by. Um, I guess not really, like, how it's applied is what I mean by who it's being
Yeah,
treated by.
yeah,
So some studies, show that just in terms of like the laboratory, like, applying it and seeing how ticks react directly to the chemicals, that is shows that there is effectivity, but there's just, it's hard to really say
yeah.
exactly, but sometimes
Okay.
effective, sometimes not, is how I'd sum that up.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you. Thank you. It's just I know a lot of people are using them, and you know, just wondering if we had the research that shows the type, their effectiveness or the conditions under which they're effective. Okay. Anybody have any other
Mr. Chair,
questions?
I had one thing to add to that,
Sure.
and a bit of future planning, but actually it's fine if it's after questions. Uh,
Anybody?
So on the spraying, the only ones with demonstrated efficacy are the permethrin for long-term treating. Then on the skin, the gold standard is a DEET or something similar.
Mhm.
There are indications that a couple of the herbal treatments are efficacious, but there is no statistical protection level that can be determined. We do intend to continue the yard survey next year, depending on the availability and amenability of our any intern that applies for us next year. We're also, hopefully going to be working together with Martha's Vineyards through the Public Health Excellence Collaborative to kind of make sure, because they're deeper in this, both on the
Mhm.
alpha-gal and on the other tick species. So one of the things that we're really looking to do is kind of get the advantage of their greater experience, and then also kind of collaborate on information and outreach, because their closeness to the problem, especially for alpha-gal, means that they have just a lot more experience with the on the ground level, and there's a larger data set for them to do epi work.
Okay. And also, I think it was a hospital announced a $1 million initiative to address alpha-gal. I think it was through a grant or whatever. So we need more information for sure. I mean, it's here, and working together with the vineyard would definitely be they're ahead of us in terms of having to deal with it. And I know that they have had many more cases of alpha-gal in the past couple of years than we've had. So, um, any other questions for Andres? And okay, there was just one thing on the dog tick slide. You want to change it to dog tick, not dig tick. If you're going to use the slides for any other presentation, the heading for that slide had a dig tick, not dog tick. So that's my teacher coming out.
Thank you. That was a great presentation.
Yes,
Yeah.
excellent. And good luck
Still
with
a
school.
student, Carrie, geez.
I know. Well, That's a simple thing. But also, and actually, the other thing I think I appreciated was thank you for giving us some background on you, on who you are and, your current studies and your future path. It always is nice to hear, you get to know a little bit more about the people who are helping us with our work and the interns. So thank you for everything.
Thank you very much, Gary.
You're welcome. If there's nothing else, we will then move on to the number 10, Pulpus Road update. Pulpus Road was at the last meeting, we did a hold on a stop order on the enforcement. There was some conditions attached to it. Jericho, I think, has more information about that, the current status of the additional information requested.
So the stop order on enforcement was contingent upon submission of some documentation of fiscal hardship, and then another condition of it was, I believe, an annual inspection and pumping process. We've heard nothing from Arthur Reed on the financial element, nor have we heard anything from the homeowners on the scheduled pumping or inspection. I want to just reiterate that because this is not a variance and that this is a stop order, there are potential implications when it comes to precedent. And with the oncoming septic expansion in the Somerset area, we need to have a really good standard by which we can determine fiscal hardship, or this is going to be unfair in a variety of ways and also require a significant amount of enforcement effort to back up. With that in mind, I will likely be attempting to add this on an ongoing basis until we get additional information from the homeowners and from their representation, just so that we can determine the threshold for fiscal hardship in a more objective way.
Okay, is it possible that the department can send a letter to Arthur and CC the owner saying that we are requesting the information? And
We
at this
did-
point, I mean, at some point, we'll probably then, if we get nothing, you'll possibly lift the stop order if we're not getting the cooperation that we asked for. But right now, I think just to follow up in that we haven't received the information as requested, we would really sincerely like to have it.
We reached out to Arthur first because that's the more pressing element, and that there is a significant amount of time for coordinating the inspection and pumping process. So that's not really. So we have reached out via email. We'll reach out again on a regular basis. Just try and keep it in tempo with the meetings. So that would be our approach. At a point determined by the board, we would then potentially lift the stop order or whatever recommendation that the board has. But I think at this point, it is middle of summer. There's a lot going on. I don't want it to slip.
Right, no, neither do I. So, I mean, well, I know we're using emails, but with a certified letter, which has at least an element of looking very official and being trackable, be a logical next step to Arthur.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did we have, we didn't give a time frame of which after the last meeting, right?
No, we didn't. No, I think we just said that we would like it, soon, and Arthur gave the impression that there was something that was readily available.
Well,
So,
it was originally to be provided before the meeting. So that was the concern for us, that there would be some sort of documentation of the fiscal hardship. At this point, there's no need to kind of like put a deadline on it. We're just continue to reach out until the point that it becomes a concern for the board. So from my end, the more pressing of the two needs is the demonstration of fiscal hardship, so I can work out a system to determine that and then get that legally vetted to make sure that that's something that won't cause legal issues between homeowners and the town. Past that, I will defer to John on the schedule for pumping or inspection. I don't think that's a pressing need.
yeah, not the pumping. I mean, the thing is, the thing that proves hardship is the financial statements. And that's what, if we get that and say, okay, this meets that threshold, then we go to the next thing of, okay, now let's look at the pumping and the maintenance issue. So, okay. So again, we will continue communicating with them. Again, I would suggest a certified letter, rather than just emails. But again, I will let you folks in the department have protocols that you use to do this stuff. So let's stay on it though and not let it slip. Any other questions about 49 Pulpus? Okay. We'll go on to our item 1166 Arkansas, septic loan request for property located in the Nantucket Harbor watershed. I should recuse myself since I deal with these neighbors in road maintenance issues throughout the year. And so I think it's best if I recuse myself for this one. So I don't know if Jericho, do you want to just run this one or
Do we have a
somebody
vice
else?
chair?
Pardon? We don't have a vice chair technically.
So in the case of recusal here, since this is a septic betterment loan request, this is the clear out of the existing funds before.
No, this is a request for a loan.
Okay.
Yeah, this-
These folks are year-round folks. They did submit two bids from two septic installers, and we reviewed them in the office. We recommend approval. Everything looks good.
And if a member of the board would like to make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Someone second it?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Bob,
Yes.
thank you. Does someone want to second it? Because again, I'm trying to
Second it.
acting like I'm recused, but
I
so-
can run, can I act as acting chair remotely on this?
Yeah,
Is
if you
that-
would,
Yes.
yeah, just
Yeah,
so,
So, since I'm in the acting chair, I can't make the motion. I need one of the other board members to make the motion for me, please.
I'll make the motion.
Ernie makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. Was that Kate? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Or was that Amy? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call vote? Ernie,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. It carries 4-0, 4-0 with one member recusing.
okay, pass. Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Can I
Okay.
say something real quick? We have
Yes.
Bobby. Do we just want to do the elections now, or we definitely want to move it to next meeting?
Well,
Was-
here- I don't care about being at the meeting. Here's the problem I have. There's going to be meetings like July and August. I can't make 4 o'clock meetings. And then in March, I'm away for the month. So if I don't know about being a chair and running a meeting remotely. I don't know if that's even allowed. I know in our select board meetings, if Dawn Dawn is in the meeting remotely, she has, then Brooke runs the meeting. So, I mean, that's why I said I'm not sure if I want to be a chair or
In-
vice chair because of that situation.
We could certainly hold the elections now. I think the acting chair made a motion just so that there was a better chance we were all in the room to like. have it.
I will be there in September. I will be at that meeting. So.
And then I think it would be ideal if we, there's nothing else you need to recuse yourself on here, is there,
No,
Corey?
no,
Okay.
it's just that one, just because they're neighbors and, just out of, best thing to do in that case. Everything else is fine for me. So if we are comfortable with sticking with what we're doing, and Bob, at the next meeting, we'll hold the elections at the beginning of the next meeting.
That
Is
sounds fine to me.
Is that okay with everybody else on the board? No, it's a question, not a motion. Okay. That was 66 article. Okay, 30 Dukes, another septic betterment loan request. And
This is actually a loan release.
this one
Everything-
is, okay, yes, okay, loan release, yes. So,
This and the next one. So we have confirmation that everything's been paid off through finance department. So this
okay,
is just a release of the loan, which releases the lien on the property.
okay. Any questions for 30 Dukes Avenue betterment loan release? If not, is there a motion to accept the motion to accept the loan release?
So moved.
Second?
I'll
Somebody?
second.
Okay, roll call vote, Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and Carrie, aye, so it passes 5-0. Next is 1 H Street, again, a septic betterment loan release. Again, which is they're paying back the money that was for the loan they took from the town for septic work, and this is a verification from the town that the funds have been received. Any questions about 1H Street septic betterment loan release? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to accept the loan release?
About 5 minutes. So moved.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, Ernie,
I,
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And Carrie says aye. So 1A septic betterment loan release passes 5-0. Next is 119 Surfside Road, a septic variance request. So let me pull that up here. And John, you want to give us a little background on this one, please?
Yeah, let me just pull it up here and then maybe do we want to let Paul speak first?
Yeah.
All right, let me just pull it up. Sorry. Can you see that, Carrie?
And let me just jump to the screen now. I have the agenda up on the screen right now.
I think the plan might be most helpful, John, then I can explain from there.
And I have it up on my screen from from downloading it. So I mean, if it's, I have it, but the rest of the room may not have it if it's not on the screen there.
How's that?
Perfect. Okay, thank you. For the record, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors on behalf of the property owner and applicant, George and Rebecca Thomas. This is a variance request, nitrogen loading rate request within the Wellhead Protection District of the Mass DEP Zone 2. It's a somewhat of a unique situation, so I'll try to explain it as easily as possible. 119 Surfside Road is a 42,000 square foot lot with a private on-site well. The lot predates the town's current well regulations, which specifically were created in 1990. And the area that's of concern in this particular case is the 300-foot groundwater flow direction component of the well regulations. This is a failed septic system that you see on the plan in front of you. You'll see 3 leaching trenches that is currently a failed system. It's currently a 4-bedroom system, which is allowed, with the 1 bedroom per 10,000 square foot lot area rate. The system itself is within the 300-foot well protection zone because when the lot was created, that particular requirement was not in place. So the lot is also bisected by the Wellhead Protection District Mass DEP Zone 2. So a portion of the lot is located within that zone, a portion is without. The system that is out there now is outside of that particular zone. So in this particular case, we would have the ability to potentially replace the system in its location. It would be outside of the DEP wellhead zone. It would require an IA system because it's within the 300-foot requirement. However, the bedroom upgrade or the 6 bedrooms per 40,000 square foot would be allowed as we would be outside the DEP zone 2. What we're proposing, or what we had thought we would do here, is place the system outside of the wellhead protection zone, which is, it looks like in this particular case, there are 3 abutting wells down gradient that are affected by the placement of this system. We would place the system in an area on the lot to the right, as you see by Surfside Road, which is outside of any of the wellhead protection or the 300-foot groundwater zones of any abutting wells. In doing so, we would remove the issue regarding the town's well regulations in the 300-foot protective zone. However, we'd be moving the system into the DEP zone 2 in the town's public wellhead recharge. In that particular case, we would then need a variance to get the bedroom credit, or the 6 bedrooms per 40,000 square feet. We thought that was a better solution. Quite honestly, I think John's staff report explains this more concisely than I did in my variance request. And I'll let maybe John take it from here on what his recommendation was to the board.
Okay. With that said, I wrote all new notes today, so I should bring up my recommendation. Yeah, kind of as Paul talked about here, it's a little bit of an unusual, well, we have a few of these lots, but you see that the wellhead protection district runs right through the property here. This property predates 1990, so it's entitled to relief for new construction, essentially for a septic system placement within these 300-foot well protection zones for private wells. And what Paul is proposing would be to put the 6-bedroom soil absorption system up in this area, which is within the wellhead protection zone district, which of course the board passed the regulation to restrict all properties within the wellhead to 440 gallons per acre. So no, even with an IA system installed, where Title V would allow for 660 gallons per acre in that situation. So it's a rare situation. I've seen these before. The way we've always treated these is that if the soil absorption system was outside of this zone, like we have a few in Nantucket that I've dealt with, where this has come up, and in the wellhead, actually kind of in the boulevard area. If the soil absorption system was located outside of that zone, we allowed the extra nitrogen loading, effluent loading with an IA system. There's not a lot of those, and this area there's no town water in this area. So for me, environmentally, placing the soil absorption system within the wellhead area keeps it away from these neighboring private drinking water wells, their 300-foot wellhead protection zone. What that is down gradient, or up gradient, I should say. The soil absorption system's up gradient, of course, groundwater flowing towards the well. So in the sense that an immediate environmental impact, I think, would be on the private wells. Now, as I said, since this lot predates 1990, it's entitled to 660 gallons of nitrogen loading because it's an acre in size. So, Paul, the board could grant the variance to locate the soil absorption system within the wellhead. That would require a variance from the wellhead protection district regulation recently in effect, or have the soil absorption system. Paul wouldn't need a variance, and he could just submit to our office a plan in this area here with an IA for a soil absorption system for 660 gallons. So that's the request.
So this is Kerry. The proposed leaching bed could be in the non-wellhead zone. And to what extent is it within the three, seeing multiple circles, the radii for the different wells? What's the impact there, especially if it's down in that lower corner?
If it's placed where it is right now, Kerry?
No, if we were to move down to the lower corner on the non-wellhead side,
Like in this area, kind of, you mean?
below the existing garage, to the that corner to the bottom of the existing garage, so the property line to the corner of the lot. I mean, just,
Yeah,
I'm just essentially down, like in that, southeastern corner.
oh, I see. Like right in here where it's outside.
Yeah, where it's
And I'm
outside of the
guessing,
district. And variances are needed because of the existing other regulations. Um, is that an option? I mean, that's a no variance.
There is, so John, if you move the kind of the hand there, Carrie, you're talking about that area right there. So the area right there, we would
Yeah,
be
there, yeah,
required to
thank
be
you.
10, would be required to be 10 feet off the property lines. There isn't sufficient area there to put the system and then accommodate the expansion area, either in the public wellhead recharge or in the groundwater flow direction. So there is a small area there that we could potentially put an area, but it would be partially, the system size would be partially located within the zone 2. And the reserve area would be completely within the zone 2 or completely within the
Okay.
groundwater flow direction.
Yeah, see, so that it's those two areas together really are what we're talking about, not just
Yeah.
one. Okay. Now, thank
Yeah.
you for that clarification. And I guess, and this is kind of, could a 4-bedroom IA system be put in?
Correct. This is the, either way, no matter which way we go, we're going to have to put the IA system in. The question is,
Right. Yeah.
in this case, what we've done, or what staff has recommended, and we tend to agree with, that placing the system outside of all the town's well regulation with regard to the 300-foot groundwater flow and placing it completely unobstructed to all the abutting wells and putting it in the public wellhead recharge on the outskirts of the public wellhead recharge here, quite honestly, is a better option environmentally.
Gary?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
Um, unless, can you ask the rest of the members if they have any other questions? Otherwise, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay. And any questions about the
sorry.
location? And again, what we're dealing with here is that, the board passed regulations about the wellhead, and this would be kind of going against it. But again, this is an unusual property that is bisected by the wellhead itself as opposed to entirely within it.
I have one question, Chair, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I wasn't here in early July, so I'm just confirming that I understand this correctly. The regulation that the board on July 1st passed was yes to upgrade to an IA system, but no more bedroom credits, right? So is this
Correct.
directly asking against essentially that variance? I'm trying to understand that.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and then you could have additional bedroom units for hardship or affordable housing or attainable housing, right?
Yeah, affordable housing, and that was
Okay.
generally working through the affordable housing office so that we would know that there's some kind of validation of the proposals.
And this does not fall within that.
There's nothing that we've seen from affordable housing or on this application that would indicate that the expansion addresses that.
So I understand how it's unique that it needs to be moved into the wellhead. I don't understand how it's unique that 2 more bedrooms need to get added since they just made that regulation. Just trying to understand that.
Well, they just want to have more bedrooms because they're entitled to it if they put the soil absorption system
In the
where outside of the wellhead.
Outside of the wellhead.
Out of here. How's your whole?
Mr.
One at a
Chair,
time,
if I may,
please.
sorry, Bob, I think.
Dad's the real hero, okay? Don't let him fool you. The next neighbor. I learned it all from him.
Tricky.
All right.
Okay.
One suggestion I may have is if the applicant could explore, if the board is considering locating the soil absorption system in the wellhead, would be to require a drip dispersal system for a soil absorption system. Because I think that's a more efficient means of effluent distribution and better for the environment.
Is there any other detail you can provide about a drip system, John?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Is there any other detail you can provide about the advantages of a drip system?
They're pressure dose, so it's just a more even distribution of effluent over time. They're they help with total suspended solids reduction in that. It's just right now kind of the best that there is, in my opinion.
Okay.
I take
Um,
arguments from Paul or Don in the
Well,
audience, but
I was going to say well, first of all, to the question regarding the regulation that was passed. The regulation was passed, but it did still give you the ability to ask for a variance from the regulation. It wasn't an all encompassing. The only, the whole thing with the affordable housing was discussed, but you still have the ability to ask for a variance, and that's why we're here.
Right.
The other option that I could do, in what Carrie, you spoke, let's go back to that area in that corner there, provided I have suitable soils, which I don't think I wouldn't have, is we could design the system as much as we can is within that area. It would partially be within the groundwater flow, although on the very outskirts of it, and try to put the system there with a limited amount, and put the expansion area in the public wellhead reach out into the zone 2. Not that you're ever going to need it, at some point, but it just, that way we try to keep the system as much as we can in that outside of the zone 2, but we would have the waiver then would be for the expansion area to deal with a very small portion of it, and then the expansion area. I mean, that's an option too.
Yeah,
is
and
to try to get-
that I would be very comfortable with, because again, it's unusual property with unusual situation,
Yeah.
but it does, kind of get us to recognize, and there is an issue that we can kind of make it, work better. And I guess the other thing would be, and a question for Paul or John is the drip system, would this drip system make it, is that still better in that scenario, or is that not something that's a concern?
Well, in this case, I don't think it's really, I mean, we know that the 6 bedrooms on the 40,000, the state, George Hufelder, everyone who came before this board when you were all discussing that, the acknowledgement is you're getting the same quality with the IA system that you are with a conventional 4-bedroom. In this particular case, I think a conventional system would be fine. If you look actually on that plan that you see there, the property to the south is completely outside of the zone 2. That is a 6-bedroom. That's an IA system that was put in. That's a system that Don designed actually, but he was able to squeeze that system outside of the well protection zones that you see. So he had a little bit more room to work with than we did.
Yeah.
Property to the north is in the wellhead protection district. That's a 6-bedroom on 40,000. But that was done before the current
before
regulations were in place and so forth. So
yeah, no, we understand that. Again, it's going every property has had a different point in time, a regulatory thing. So so would moving the system south with keeping a minimal amount in the wellhead district reserve area, would that be something that would be palatable to folks, and still get us, the owner would get the 6-bedroom because the main system is going to be in the outside the wellhead, and we get an IA system which is better, and kind of just minimizes the impact in the wellhead protection zone, recognizing that we're trying to really protect that. Paul, is that?
Oh, I mean, I think that's for me, I'd prefer to do that, quite honestly. It gets, I mean, we'd have a small piece of it in the zone 2. The expansion area would, I think personally that's the best solution.
Okay. Can we, someone develop a motion that kind of reflects that,
We do have one member of the public who would wish to speak.
okay. Yeah, again, I'm not seeing that stuff, so thank you.
No, I'm sorry. You can make the motion so I understand exactly what's being proposed. That would be helpful for me.
Okay. Well, I guess we're talking about I'm not gonna propose a motion, but we'd be looking at something where the main part of the system would be the proposed 6-bedroom leaching bed would be in the, I'm going to say southeast corner, because that's my only point of reference right now, with a portion of the reserve area being in the wellhead protection district. John, does that describe what we're looking for?
yeah, I'd like to see a plan, but I mean, I know Paul he'll obviously submit something to our office for a review. So as long as it's, yeah, I'm clear that it's the most southeast corner of the property. And
Yeah, so,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, go ahead.
I would make that motion contingent on review of actual plan by staff to, that staff is agreement with the plan after review.
Okay, yes, absolutely. So, so do we have a motion for contingent upon review of the modified plan, moving the proposed leaching field to the southeast corner with a portion of the reserve area in the wellhead protection district?
Do we need to grant would that not be this is a point of order question. Would that not be a new variance request? Would it just be best to table that and move that on if we have to do the plan review anyway?
Just,
Yep.
he'd only just need a variance just for the reserve to be in the.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah. So, but I guess the official question then is officially, do we have to have an official request about it being, a new variance request?
No, Ernie's correct. The variance would just be for the location, like for one particular component of the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll be allowed to be in the 300-foot as long as I have an IA under the grandfathering provisions.
Right.
So it's just a question of putting a portion of a system in the reserve within the wellhead protection.
Yeah. So really the question is more, protocol, and that, do we need a formal variance application that reflects that reserve area being in the wellhead protection district? And again, this is where my knowledge of Robert's rules is not great.
I mean, the variance doesn't change. It's just a question of that, the plan just will need to be reviewed by staff, obviously. So.
Okay. John, you comfortable?
One quick question for Paul.
Yes. Yes.
Paul, you think there's enough area there for you to get the leach facility in there without being in the?
No, I'm going to be.
You got enough area?
No, I'm going to be partially in the wellhead.
That's what
I've got it sitting in my folder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's it's the push. What's going to happen is it's going to be the same size system. Look to the south, look to the north, those rectangles, that's a 6-bedroom, basically bed. So it's going to be 10 feet off the property line. It's going to be off that easement. It's going to be partially within the wellhead, but a portion of it's going to stick, a small portion is going to stick up into the zone 2.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And then the reserve is
Is
going to
in
be
the zone
completely
two.
in the zone
Yep,
2.
yep.
Yeah.
So, John?
Sorry, I have one more question.
Yes, no, please go.
Just because of the staff write-up, and then how much closer will that be in terms of feet to the abutting drinking water wells, which is what John's concern was, right?
Yeah, it's just.
No, I understand that, but then is that of concern to you, John? Like,
no, so as I understand it, the bed's going to be up in this area right here. So, I mean, it's on the very fringe of these wellhead protection zone areas.
but the drinking
what
wells.
The questions about the neighbors' wells does moving it down there jeopardize
Yeah.
the wells there?
So I'll pass this around. This is a 6-bedroom system. You can see now that's the system, not the reserve. So you'll see.
Yeah, I meant the drinking wells.
Yeah.
He's gonna keep it out of those.
That's actually out of the wellhead protection zone.
We'll see.
Right. I
Out
think
of
the question.
out of the groundwater flow direction.
Okay, so the neighbors' wells that draw their drinking water from wouldn't be impacted by shifting the.
Correct.
Okay, I think is that the question?
Yep, thank you, because that was John's concern for putting it in the wellhead in his staff recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah. So we would be outside the neighbors' wells with the system.
Okay, so I guess this, again, this is more procedural, but John, can we, or Jericho, can we go ahead with the motion we provided, shifting the leaching field down to the southeast corner? There would be a portion of the reserve area, and it would be in the wellhead. Contingent upon review by the office. Is that an acceptable approach, or do we want to see redrawn plans that have that?
No, because it'd be the same. The request for the variance is the same. It's still the flow.
Yeah.
variation and the placement. So I believe, and John, check me on this, you're more familiar with this stuff. It doesn't, it should not require, it's the same variance as submitted. It's just a
Okay.
different.
Yeah, because it's going into the partially into the wellhead area and
Correct.
the reserve area. And it could be kind of contingent on this sketch plan submitted at the meeting, and I can stamp this and keep this
So
copy.
in my estimation, if the motion includes the contingency, it should be fine.
Okay, so if someone would like to make the motion about the redrawn plan that would have the leaching field down in the southeast corner with the portion of the reserve area going into the wellhead protecting district contingent, and this approval is contingent upon review by the health department office officials. Anyone want to make that motion?
So
I'll
moved.
make a motion.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, good. So I'm going to do a roll call vote. Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and Carrie says aye too. So that passes 5-0. And Paul, just you know the drill.
Okay, thank you very much.
So thanks a lot. Thanks for working with us and appreciate it very much. Okay, 26 Arlington, I think, was taken off the agenda. I just want to verify that.
Yes, they requested to be off the agenda.
Okay, so which moves us to 27 Osprey Way, the septic variance for setbacks to coastal bank. This is one, if I remember, was continued from June, and we had made a request because of the property's location directly on Hummock Pond and water flows and ground flows, that monitoring wells that plan be submitted that show monitoring wells being put in. And John, I think, can you take over for this part now? Was that request met?
Yes, it was. I can let Don speak to it because he can
Okay.
probably cover it right off the bat better than I can, but
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, Don Bracken from Bracken Engineering. I'll go over it again, seeing most of you weren't here at the last meeting. So this is a pretty small lot right on Hummock Pond. It's just over 8,000 square feet. It was recently sold and triggered an upgrade requirement. The system that's currently there is functioning. It failed because it doesn't have the groundwater separation between the bottom of the system and the groundwater. The current system on site is 5 bedrooms. It's a standard Title V system. It has 3 leaching trenches, which are fairly close to Hummock Pond itself. So under this proposal, the original plan, we were duplicating the 5-bedroom system because, as we know, you never give up a bedroom on Nantucket, even though there was only 4 bedrooms in the house. So after looking at the initial plan with the owners and them wanting to try to limit the disturbance and realizing there's not much feasibility down the road to increase anything on this property, we changed the plan to go down to 4 bedrooms, thereby shrinking the system somewhat from the previous plan that we had submitted. There were concerns about the groundwater. There was some varying information from the old plans that were on record. And sometimes in these really sandy conditions, it's tough to get a real accurate groundwater elevation. We do the best we can. We do the test bits, but it was decided that we would go back out there and set a monitoring well. And we have these data loggers that we set in the monitoring wells that we can leave in for months if we wanted to. One of the concerns that we thought was maybe that pond was somewhat tidally influenced, so we wanted to compare that with the tidal ranges over a period of time. What we actually found, it's not really tidally influenced, but what we did find is that this area is susceptible to groundwater spikes after heavy rainfalls. So I think this has been going on a couple of months ago when we were first here. So we found that the groundwater did spike up for a short period. It took a long time to go back down. So we adjusted the groundwater elevations, and we adjusted the elevations of the soil absorption systems to accommodate that. So in our mind, it's pretty conservative where we're showing the groundwater on the plan now. We're fortunate that the grades on the site allowed us to still accommodate getting the system a little bit higher without causing too much disturbance to the site. This is an IA system. It's a septic tech system, which is equipped with a pump system, which is, works best for this situation with the existing plumbing that's in there. So again, it's strictly an upgrade. There's no new construction proposed. In our variance request letter, we separate out the variances to local regulations, and then we separated out the local upgrades under Title V, which I'll just take you through quickly. So we're asking for a variance to the 100-foot setback from the soil absorption system to the wetland. And in this case, the wetland is a coastal bank. Not sure how familiar people are with this, but there's a definition for coastal bank under the state, wetlands protection regulations that has to do with floodplains and slopes and that sort of thing. It's not really an area that for septic systems that you're usually concerned with. Obviously, our usual concern is with the boring vegetated wetland that's here. And the biggest concern is obviously the edge of Hummock Pond itself. So the reason I say that, try to put things in perspective, so to the wetland, we're asking a variance from 100 feet down to 43 feet, and that's the coastal bank. And then below that, we're asking from 300 feet down to 57 feet because Nantucket has a nitrogen sensitive setback from the pond of 300 feet. So that actually meets to the pond itself, it actually meets Title V requirements, which is only 50 feet. And then below that, you'll see where we listed some of the Title V relief that we need. We try to get the soil absorption system as close to the street line away from the pond as we could. So we're asking for a 2-foot waiver there. And property line and septic tank, soil absorption system with crawl space. And again, soil absorption system to wetland. It's covered under both the state and the local regulations. So in summary, we're getting it probably 13, 14 feet further away from the pond. We're getting it much further above the groundwater, and we're adding the IA components. So it's a significant improvement over what's existing.
Okay. Don, thank you. Any questions from the board? John, staff recommendation?
Yeah, I think it's these were all good improvements. Like Don said, this is going from a 5-bedroom system down to 4. Obviously, this is a tight lot in a sensitive area. The pond's right there. But this is, I don't want to say leaps and bounds, but it is definitely much better than what currently exists on the property. So overall, this is much better for the environment than what currently exists.
Okay. And just a quick question, and I think it was there, but they're on town water?
Yes.
I couldn't see anything well, and I thought it was a town line. Okay, good. Just wanted to verify that. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any questions from the board? Or are there any hands up on the board? I don't have the entire board in front of me. The
Mr. Chairman, I wish they were all this easy.
So we have a motion to, if there's no questions, a motion to accept the the resubmitted plans for 27 Osprey Way, as submitted. And the the septic variance for setbacks to coastal bank, property lines and structures.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Ernie?
Aye.
Yeah, okay. Kate?
Yep.
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Aye, and Carrie says aye. So pass, 26 Harlequin passes 5-0, septic variances. Don, thank you, and thank you for working with us on, making those changes. It just makes it better. Thank you very much.
Yeah, better situation.
Thank you. Thank the owners too for us. Okay, what we have next actually is interesting, and this is South Cambridge, and these are 5 of the townhouses that were on a shared system, now breaking into individual systems. I'll let John take it from there in terms of kind of the history and if this is an improvement or whatever. So, John, you want to take that one, please?
Sure. I'll just try and get this on the screen real quick. Hold on.
Yeah. And I guess we'll start with 37, but and then we can go through and if there's any kind of a difference between each one, or if they essentially are all the same, you can, but let's start with 37.
Good luck. While John's doing that, I think we're gonna have to vote on these individually.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm assuming. So we'll, vote on one, but as we go through, if it's as identical, maybe a little less discussion, but there may be, since I know that there's some of these units are different sizes and also the land is scarce there. If there's any differences between them to really make sure we highlight. Yes, we have to act on each one individually. So 30, what we're talking about first will be 37 South Cambridge.
So yeah, the comments I can give on this is, yeah, these townhouses were all in one shared system, which is in failure right now. It's a matter of, this is when shared systems are really tough because you had five individual property owners having to, in short, get on the same page to repair the failed system here. So this has been in failure for a few years. And this is, I know these designs have been in the works for a few years. And what's going on here now is all of these townhouses are now going to have their own separate systems, which I am strongly in favor of the situation from that aspect. The reason why essentially we're here today, most of the reason is anytime you locate a septic component within property lines to your neighbors, you have to notify them and let them know that it's going to be at a meeting so they have a chance to speak. In this scenario, which I have never witnessed, is they're all being notified about themselves, putting tanks at their neighboring property. So in reality, it's just going through the motions of really what's required, even though it's really, they're only affecting themselves, so it's kind of futile. So I have no concerns with this at all. This is a great upgrade to this area. You will see some of these soil absorption systems within the 150 feet well protection zone in Nantucket, but there's no way to avoid that. I feel that the designs that I've seen are doing the best that they can. There is actually town water available out in South Cambridge, and I thought that was going to be an option for these folks to run town water, and it might still be in the works at this point. I'm not quite sure. So, but in the future, we might see town water, and so all the concerns about these wells go away.
It's very close. I know that there's a town water at the beginning of South Cambridge. They're in the dirt road portion of South Cambridge, so I don't know if the water line extends beyond there, but it goes to the pavement, which is about 100 feet away from their driveway.
Yeah, I believe it's in the street there, so it is available.
Okay. Wells. Okay, so we're gonna focus, one at a time. So we're on 37. Don, is there any
Yeah.
thing that we
Yeah,
should?
John stole most of my thunder, but I was gonna try to do is do an overview for all of them so we can go through them individually kind of quickly. There is some history to this. I think the main thing that you have to remember, and it's difficult, is that these are not condominiums or townhouses, and everyone calls them that. They look like that and they feel like that. They're all on individual lots. The lot lines go down between the walls, and that doesn't mix well with Title V and Board of Health regulations, obviously. So the existing system that's there is not too old. I want to say maybe 20, 25 years old there, but it is one shared system, comes out the middle and then goes out to leaching trenches. And when that was approved, we didn't have the same requirements for shared systems then as we do today. And, one of the major requirements for a shared system is that the owners have to have enough money in escrow to replace that system down the road. So that gets very complicated. And then obviously for sales and everything else, that's how we came back to the best scenario would be to put in individual systems for each lots. And, we're able to do that with the help of the Nantucket Land Trust, because right now the whole system is on a fairly small easement just to cover that. And we explained to them already that, listen, this is the scenario. They all have this easement. We're asking to reconfigure the easement. This would be overall improvement. Obviously, they're in favor of doing what we can to improve the environment. So we're fortunate they were able to work that out with us. And it's been a few years, obviously, to try to get everybody to agree to do this. And I don't even know if everyone's already agreed, but enough people have gotten us to this point. And this sort of came to a head when number 39 was being sold. And we designed and got approved an IA system for 39 that was then going to connect to the common system. Well, they put the tank in, we found out that that common system was on the verge of failing at that time. So, well, now we can't connect to it. Now we got to come up with another plan. And, fortunately, we came up with this, as we said, which is the best option for everybody. Again, as John said, most of these variances, there's a lot of information here, but mostly they're asking for variances to each other for the most part, except for the property to the south. There are a couple of owners down there with the systems that are going closer to the south side. And I'll go through each one, try to do it quickly. They were all notified because we had to go closer than 10 feet to their property lines. The lots are all narrow, 12 feet, 16 feet, 24 feet wide. We did the best we could. And we thought it was important to put the tanks on their own property. So they're completely responsible for that tank. And the only thing that's going in the easement will be the soil absorption system. All right, so with that, I'll go to, in order, number 37. Again, like I said, for the last project, we'd like to break it down to local and then state requirements. And so all the requirements, as John said, are all Nantucket relief. None of them are Title V relief, really. And then the only Title V we're asking for is setbacks to the property lines, as I mentioned. So 37 would be a new IA system and leaching system. The only thing you probably need to do this for each one if you're going to approve each one. We still have to get the final documentation for all the easements drawn up legally and recorded. So, but we didn't want to do that until we knew the board was going to approve these plans. So that would be the next step. So if you do vote to approve each one of these, you might want to add that condition to it.
Okay, yeah, that's important.
Yep.
So, okay, so let's start with 37. Looking at the plans for 37, are there any questions about 37? What is
I have
interesting?
one
Go ahead.
question, Gary.
Yes.
Are the plumbing's all going to be separated in all the units now?
Yes. That's
Okay.
not going to be an easy task.
And
Yeah.
how about the electrical done? Same, they're all going to feed their own power.
They're all going to have their own power to these units. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. What is, I live on the other side of the pond, and what is different, which John mentioned, which is actually a good thing, is that the tanks themselves are on on the owner's property. Where on the other side of the pond, we have tanks all over the place. So that actually was just a nice, I see that as a very positive change. So if there's any other questions from board members or anyone that might be having a hand raised.
I have a question, Carrie. Actually,
Yes.
maybe Don can help out because the existing system already is down here along this lot line. Is there, I thought there was easements already in place for that? For
There
this,
is,
this
yeah.
land? Okay.
Yep.
So I was just confused with the new easements.
So there's one big easement that's given to all those individual lot owners. And they
Okay.
sort of share that easement together. Under this situation, each individual lot owner will have their own easement from
see.
Nantucket Trust.
Okay, I understand. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so that will be a condition of the motion that so I guess the motion we would hope have made is that the setback variance, the motion to accept the septic setback variances and upgrade approval contingent upon, and I think, Don, can you give me the wording about the easement?
Contingent upon, final easement documents being
Okay,
submitted.
yeah. Okay, so contingent upon final easement documents. So if there's no more questions, is there someone willing to make a motion for 37 South Cambridge Street?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, and the motion would be to accept the variances contingent upon the easement, reception of the easement documents. I'll do a roll call vote. Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Gary says aye. So 5-0. 37 South Cambridge Street passes with the contingency of the septic, the easement plans. Okay, go on to 39. Don, is there anything about
39 again is the one that already has the IA tank in place, so it looks a little different because we don't need to ask for the variances to the septic tank because we already got those before we put the tank in. Other than that, it's the same as 37.
Okay, and again, will the easement documents need to be for this particular one?
Yes, everyone will need the
Everyone,
easement
okay,
document.
so do we have a motion for 39 South Cambridge Street to accept again the system setback variances, local upkeep approval, contingent upon reception of the approved easement documents?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Okay, roll call vote. Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And Carrie says aye. So 39 South Cambridge Street passes. Next is 41. And again, that seems to be a slightly different unit, and it's one of the 24-foot wide ones. Is there anything about that one that
It's
is
just
different?
like 37, this one needs an IA system. We're asking for less divergence from Title V setbacks from 10 feet to 8 feet and 6 feet because we have the extra width on this lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and actually, let me just do one thing fast. Just give me a second. I was still looking at the old drawing. Okay. Okay, so for 41 South Cambridge, do we have a motion to accept the septic system setback variances and local upgrade approval contingent upon receipt of the approved easement documents?
So moved.
Second?
Second? Second?
Okay. Roll call vote. Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And Carrie says aye. So 41 passes 5-0. 43 South Cambridge. Again, that was one of the more narrow units, a 16-footer. Is there anything here that's different than 37, Don?
No, that's the same as 37. This one is closer to that southerly property line. So on this one, we had to notify the abutters to the south.
Okay, and did we get any reply from them in any way, shape, or form? A yes, no, or maybe?
We haven't. Usually in the notification letter, we say that they can contact the Board of Health directly or contact us if they have any
Okay.
questions.
John, did we hear anything from anybody for 43?
I love when they send mail and tell me to contact me.
Well,
We did not receive
they
anything.
don't believe us, they'll believe you.
Yeah, right,
Okay.
exactly.
Well, usually most people ignore those, I think. They don't think it's real. Okay, so is there a motion to accept the septic system setback variances and local upgrade approvals for 43 South Cambridge contingent upon receipt of the approved easement documents?
So moved.
Second? Okay, good. Roll call vote. Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And Carrie says aye. So 43 South Cambridge passes with the contingency about the documents, which brings us to 45 South Cambridge, which is one of the narrow units at the end. So Don, again, just a quick.
Yeah, this one is different. The only difference with this one, it's a 2-bedroom dwelling, so it would be conditioned that a 2-bedroom deed restriction be recorded.
Okay. And then and they have the easement issue too with the more southern property owners.
That one might be 10 feet away. Yeah, that's only to the other, to the Nantucket Land Trust
Okay,
itself
so like
and the abutter to the left, yeah.
okay.
So,
Okay.
not
so-
the people to the south.
Okay, so for 45 South Cambridge, do we have a motion for septic system setback variances, local upgrade approval with contingent upon receipt of approved easement documents for 45 South Cambridge?
So moved.
And
Second?
bedroom do restriction.
Second.
Wait, I'm sorry, Bob, what was that?
And the bedroom restriction.
And the bedroom restriction?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so with the better, so motion, can we just make the motion again? So setback variances, local upgrade approval, easement, and the two-bedroom restriction. Motion for that. Just want to redo the motion again to include the bedroom issue, two-bedroom restriction.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
okay. Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and Carrie says aye. So thank you. I'm just going to make one point, and again, this is for several of these units. Again, that's because I live in one of them on the other side of the pond. The third bedroom actually may not be a bedroom because it's under 70 square feet in many cases. We call it a bunk room. So I don't think it impacts here, but it is something that if we deal with the townhouses, we may want to be mindful to get an accurate bedroom count, since I think only the 24-foot wide one is the one that actually has 3 bedrooms according to how we measure.
Well,
So,
that may also come back to, you're allowed to have the same number of bedrooms that was originally approved regardless. It's almost like that Osprey situation where they only had 4, but were allowed 5 because that was originally approved. So
yeah, I mean,
I
that,
wouldn't want to restrict someone from adding a few square feet in that situation and keeping the bedroom that they legally already have. But
yeah, I mean, it's one of those, they're strange rooms, I will tell you that. Okay, Don, thank you for walking
well,
us
thank you, everybody.
through
This
that.
was nice to get off our plate, John.
Thank you.
This has been there for a while, I'm aware, just because I had a friend that looked at the place, one of the places a couple years ago, and he was like, the septic situation is a mess, and didn't want anything to do with it. So, okay, we have completed a meeting for August 20th. If there's any other comments or anything, if not, a motion to adjourn would be accepted.
Motion.
Is there anyone else to second that?
Second.
Okay, going to do roll call vote. Ernie,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and Carrie. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, folks, and good meeting. Thank you, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Can we try that next time? We're gonna hang out with you guys all night.